Halaman 51. Don't they know? It was the people of Mecca who said to the Prophet, as quoted by his words, "You are not an apostle." Qs. 43. Istifham, or the question word in this verse, contains the meaning of takrar, namely you know, how much. The pronunciation of kam contains the meaning of the sentence news, namely a lot, meaning, verily we destroyed before them many nations, people. In fact they are, those whom we have destroyed, them, namely those who lied to the Prophet. No return. Did they not learn a lesson from it? The pronunciation of anhum and so on becomes badal from the previous sentence, maintaining the meaning that has been mentioned. And there is nothing, if it is considered as a nafiya. In fact, if considered as the mukafafa of inna, each of all creatures, kullan is positioned to be mubtada, but, when read taseeded, the meaning is the same as the pronunciation of illa. If you read takfif, which means lama, then the lam letter is lam farika and the ma letter is zaida, collected, which becomes kabar from mubtada, namely collected, to us again, to undergo reckoning. The pronunciation of this verse becomes the second kabar. And a sign for them, indicating that they will be resurrected, the pronunciation of this verse is kabar. Makadam is the dead earth, can be read al-maytadi or al-mayatadi, we revive the earth, with water, becomes mubtada makar, and we brought out from them grain, like wheat, so they ate from it. And we made therein gardens and fields of date palms and grapes, and we caused springs to gush forth therein, from some of them, so that they may eat from its fruits, can be read samarahai or tsumirahai, namely the fruit of the tree mentioned earlier, namely dates and other fruits, and from what their hands have earned, not from the result of fruits. So why are they not grateful for the favors of Allah which have been bestowed upon them? Glory be to Allah who has created pears, of various kinds, all of them, both from what the earth grows, of grain and others, and from themselves, namely types of men and women, as well as from what they do not know, namely creatures that are miraculous and strange. And a sign for them, which shows the great power of Allah, is the night. We removed it, we separated the day from the night, so immediately they were in darkness, they entered the darkness. Evening. And the sun moves. This verse and the following are part of the verse Wa'idal Layam, or are verses that stand alone, namely not bound by the previous verse. Likewise the verse Wal Camera, in the next verse, in its place of circulation. It will not deviate from its orbit. Such is the rotation of the sun, the decree of the Almighty, in his kingdom, the all-knowing, about his creatures. And for the month, it can be read Wal Kamaru or Wal Camera. If you read the Nashab, namely Wal Camera, it means it was given by the fill after it whose function is to interpret it, namely, we have determined, for the circulation. Manzila of 28 manzila for 28 nights per month. Then hide for 2 nights, if the number is 1 month and 30 days, and 1 night if the number is 1 month and 29 days, so he returns, after arriving at the last manzila, according to the eye, as the shape of the old bunch. If it is advanced the period is like bunches, then becomes thinner, crescent-shaped, and yellow. It is impossible for the sun, it will not happen, to get the moon, that is the sun and the moon unite at night, and the night cannot precede the day, the night will not come before the end of the day. And each, the sun, the moon, and the stars. This Tanwin pronunciation of kullan is a replacement of mudhafalay, on its orbit, which is circular, circulating, on its respective orbit. In this expression the celestial bodies are likened to intelligent creatures, therefore they are expressed with the pronunciation yasbahuna. And a sign for them, which shows our power, is that we carry their descendants. According to another kirat, the pronunciation of Zuriyatihim is read in plural form so that the reading becomes Zuriyatihim, which means their ancestors, in the ark, namely the boat of the Prophet Noah, fully loaded, filled with passengers. 42. And we created for them like that ark, like the boat of the Prophet Noah, the small and large boats that were made by them afterward, had the same shape as the boat of the Prophet Noah. This is thanks to what Allah SWT has done. Teach the Prophet Noah, whom they will ride, they sail with him. 43. And if we had willed, we would have drowned them. Even if we had used a boat, then there would have been no helper, that is, a savior, for them. And they would not have been saved, and they would have been helped so that they would survive. But we saved them because of our great mercy and to give them enjoyment of life until such time as there is no one to save them except our mercy upon them, and because we will give them enjoyment of life until the end of their life. And when it is said to them, be afraid of the punishment that is before you, in the form of punishment in this world like what has befallen those other than them, and the punishment that will come, namely the punishment in the afterlife, so that you may
receive mercy, but they kept turning away.
And never came to them a sign of the power of their Rab, but they always turned away from it. And when it is said, the poor friends say to them, spend, donate to us, some of the sustenance that Allah has given you in the form of property. Then those who disbelieve say to the people believers, in a cynical tone as a mockery directed at them, are we going to give food to people who if Allah willed he would certainly feed them, according to your beliefs? You have nothing else, namely what you say to us, even though you have the belief that Allah will definitely feed you, but in obvious error, which is clearly an error. He emphasized that the pronunciation of al-adzina kafaru contains deep meaning. And they said, when will this promise come to pass? Namely the day of resurrection, if you are truthful people regarding what you said. Allah says, they are not waiting, but for just one cry, namely the first blast of the angel Israfil, which will destroy them when they are fighting. The pronunciation of Yakashamuna was originally Yaktashamuna. Then the meaning of Ta was transferred to Ka, then Ta was dreamed of by Shad. That is, they are in a state of neglect from the arrival of the day of judgment, because they are busy in their quarrels, the buying and selling they do, eating and drinking and other activities. According to other Kairats, the pronunciation of Yakashamuna has the same wazn as the pronunciation of Yadrabuna, meaning that some of them quarreled with others. Then they did not have the power to make a will, could not make a will, nor could they return to their families, from the market and from the places where they were busy. All of them died in their respective places. And the trumpet is blown, the second blast to revive the creatures to life, the interval between the two blasts, the first blast and the second blast, is 40 years. Then suddenly they, those who have been buried, from their graves, from where they are buried, come out hastily to their Lord. They come out hastily and come to him. They say, the disbelievers among humans, alas. Yes, here shows the meaning of Tanvi, woe to us. We will perish. The pronunciation of Wailuan is Mashdar, which does not have Fil from its pronunciation. Who raised us from our bed, burial dash, because it was as if they were asleep between the two blasts, meaning they were not punished. This resurrection, which the most gracious and true promised regarding them, his messengers, they acknowledged as true of what the apostles had said, but their confession was no longer useful. According to another opinion, that sentence was said to them, there will be no cry except a single cry, then all of them will be before us, gathered. 054. On that day no soul will be harmed in the least, and you will not be recompensed except with the recompense of what you did. Indeed, the dwellers of paradise on that day will be busy. They will no longer care about what the people of hell experience, because they are busy with the pleasures they are experiencing, such as breaking the hymens of the maidens. They have no activities that make them tired or exhausted, because in paradise there is no tiredness. The word syugulin can also be read as syulin, enjoying, namely wallowing in pleasure.
Fa'akiuna as pronunciation became ina as second kaba, while the first kaba was fi shugulin.
They pronounce hum as mubtada, and their wives are in a shaded place. This pronunciation of zilin is the plural form of the pronunciation of zilin or zilatin, became kabar mubtada. The meaning of zilin is not exposed to the heat of the sun, meaning shade. On the cots, the pronunciation ariki is the plural of the pronunciation arika, is a thick bed or a rug. They have backs, spread out on the cots. The recitation of this verse becomes the second kabar and becomes the place for Elul Raiki to pray. In heaven they obtain fruits, and they also obtain, in it, what they ask for, what they desire. To them it is said, Salam. The position of the sentence is mubtada, as a greeting, which is the kabarnia, from the most merciful Rab, to them, namely he says to them, prosperity be upon you. And he also said, separate you and the believers this day, you who do evil. They were ordered to separate when they mixed with the believers. Have I not ordered you, O children of Adam, through the words of my messengers, so that you do not worship Satan? Do not obey it. Indeed, Satan is a real enemy for you, that is, his hostility is clear. And worship me, that is, believe in me and obey me. This is the path, means, straight, guidance. Indeed, Satan has led many of you astray. The pronunciation of Jibilin is the plural form of Jibilin, like the Wazan Kadaiman, meaning creatures. According to another kirat, it is read as Jibilin with the Dhamma movement on the letter Ba. Then will you not reflect about the enmity of Satan and his leading them astray, or the punishment that will befall them, because of which they will then believe? It will be said to them in the hereafter,
This is the hell that you were threatened with it. Enter into it today because you previously denied it.
This day we shall seal up the mouths of the disbelievers, because they say, as is mentioned in his words, by Allah our Lord, we do not associate partners with Allah. QS 6 Al-An'am 23, and their hands and their feet will testify, and their limbs, as to what they used to do. Every part of the body will speak of what it has done. And if we willed, we could certainly take away their sight. We made their sight completely blind, so they raced, to hasten, to find, the way, to go as they used to do. Then how can they see the way if they are blind? That is, they will certainly not be able to see the way. And if we had willed, we would have changed them, turned into monkeys, pigs, or stones, where they were. According to another kirat, the pronunciation of Makanatahim is read in the plural, namely Makanatahim, namely in their places. So they were unable walking and not being able to return, that is, they cannot leave and cannot return. And whoever we prolong his life, that is, his death is extended, we will surely return him. According to another kirat, it is not read Nanakis who, but Nunkis who, which comes from Mashdar at Tankis, namely returning him to what happened, so that after he's strong and young and then old and weak again. Then don't they think that the Almighty Essence does this and has the power to bring life back to life? Therefore they then want to believe in him. According to other kirat, the pronunciation of Ikaluna is pronounced Takaluna using the letter Ta. And we did not teach him, namely to the Prophet, about poetry. This verse was revealed as a refutation of the words of the disbelievers, because they have said that the Quran which was brought by him is actually poetry, and poetry is not worthy. It is not easy for him. The Quran is nothing else. What is revealed to him? Nothing but only lessons, advice, and books that provide enlightenment, that explain the laws and other things. So that he may warn, with the Quran. The pronunciation of Lion Zaira can also be read as Latunzara, which means that you warn their hearts with the Quran, to living people, meaning to be responsive to whatever is advised to them. They are believers. And so that the judgment is certain of the punishment against the disbelievers, they will be likened to the dead, because they did not respond to anything that was advised to them. And do they not see? Do not pay attention. Istifham here contains the meaning of takrar, and the letter waw which enters it is the letter, athaf, that we have created for them. This is addressed to a group of people. From what we have created with power from the results of our creation without partners and without helpers, i.e. in the form of livestock, camels, cows, and goats, and then they took control of them, can look after them. And we subjected the animals, we made them subject to them, so some of them became their mounts, as their vehicles, and some of them they ate. And they find in it benefits, from the hair of their camels, goats, and sheep, and drink from their milk. The word masirib is the plural form of the word mazirab, which means ashsirb or drink. The meaning intended is a place to drink. So why are they not grateful to Allah who has bestowed these blessings upon them, so that they will believe? The meaning intended is that they are not grateful. 074. They take besides Allah, besides him, as worship, the idols they worship, so that they may get help from the punishment of Allah, because they receive intercession from the gods they worship. This is according to their own assumptions. The idols will not be able to, that is, their idols will not be able to help. The expression of the word idols using the plural for people who are intelligent is only a figurative word, namely they are considered as creatures. Those who have reason, help them, while their idols are their idols, who are their soldiers, according to their assumptions, namely, soldiers who are ready to help them, who are prepared, in the fire with them. So let not their words grieve you, such as saying, you are not a messenger of Allah, and other such sayings. Indeed we know what they conceal and what they reveal, from such sayings and others, and we shall soon recompense them. Does man not see? Does he not know? The person referred to is Ashi bin Whale, that we created him from a drop of water, namely semen, until we made him big and strong. Then suddenly he became an opponent, namely very hostile to us, who clearly opposed it, did not want to believe in the existence of the day of resurrection. 078. He makes a parable for us about it, and he forgets its occurrence, comes from semen, and moreover, he forgets things other than that. He says, who can give life to bones that have been destroyed to pieces? In this expression it is not said remimitin, because noun is not an attribute. According to a narration, it is narrated that Ashi bin Whale took a bone that had been destroyed, then he scattered the bone in front of the Prophet Saw, while saying, do you think that Allah will later bring this bone back to life after it has been destroyed and fallen apart? So the Prophet Saw answered, yes, he will send you to hell. Say, he will be revived by the Lord who created him the first time, and he is of all creatures, all that he created, all-knowing, in general and in detail, both before they were created and after. 080. He's the Lord who created for you, namely a group of mankind, from green wood, namely the wood of the maruk tree and the afar or all kinds of trees except the vine, fire, then suddenly you light fire from it. You make fire from it. This shows the power of Allah SWT, who is able to revive dead people. Because verily in the green wood are collected between water, fire, and wood, so water cannot extinguish fire, and also fire cannot burn wood. And was it not God who created the heavens and the earth, even though the heavens and the earth are very large, having the power to create something similar to them, are humans who are small in form? True, he has the power to create it, here Allah SWT answered himself. And he is the creator of many of his creations, and the all-knower of all things. Indeed, his thing is that his condition, if he wills something, is that he wills to create something, just says to it, be, then it happens, and that something takes form. According to other Kairats, the pronunciation of Fayakunu is read Fayakuna because it is translated into the pronunciation of Yakula. So glory be to Allah in whose grasp is the power. The original pronunciation of Malakutu is Mulki, then the letters Wawu and Ta are added to show the meaning of Mubalaga, meaning power over everything, and to him you will be returned in the hereafter.
Shafat.
For the sake of those who believe in truth, namely the angels who line up to form pillars in worshipping Allah, or the angels whose wings join together to form a line in the air while waiting for what they are ordered to do. And by the group that truly guides, by the angels who guide or guide the clouds. And for the sake of the group who read, meaning the readers of the Quran who are reading it as a warning, the pronunciation of Daiker becomes the mashdar of the meaning of Fa'ilat Talia, meaning, for the sake of the Qari who read the warning or the Quran.
Truly your Lord, O people of Mecca, truly one.
The Lord of the heavens and the earth and whatever is between them, and the Lord of the risings of the sun, and the setting of each day, namely the east and the west. Indeed, we have decorated the nearest sky with decorations, namely stars, with their light, or the decorations are in the form of the stars themselves. The meaning of Ithafa here contains the meaning of bayan or explaining. The matter is the same as the meaning of kirat which conveys it. And as the maintainer of the Hifzan pronunciation, it is nashib by the fa'il whose existence is presumed previously, namely we maintain the sky with stars or meteors from each pronunciation of this verse taluk to the fa'il whose existence is presumed, disobedient devils, devils who are disobedient or do not want to obey. They cannot hear, meaning the devils cannot hear what he has protected. The pronunciation of this verse is the number of Istnaf, talks of the angels, in the sky. The pronunciation of Yasmayuna is modified with the letter Ila because its meaning contains the same meaning as that contained in the pronunciation of Alishka. According to a Kirat, it is read La Yasamayuna using te seated on the letters Mim and Sin, derived from the pronunciation of Yadasamayuna. Then the letter Ta is added to the letter Sin, so it becomes Yasamayuna, and they were pelted, namely the devils with meteors, from all corners of the sky. To expel them, the Dahuran pronunciation is the mashdar form of the Daharahu pronunciation, meaning he expelled them and kept them away, and also became mafullah, and for them, in the afterlife, eternal punishment, which is eternal. Except for the devil who steals, the angel's conversation, in one steal, the pronunciation of al-Katha is mashdar. Mara, and what is Isitsnakan or what is excluded, is the damar contained in the pronunciation of La Yasmayuna. Meaning, no one can listen to the conversation of the angels except for the devil who can steal it quickly, so he is chased by a meteor, which is a shining star, which makes a hole in him, which penetrates the bodies of the devils, or burns them, or makes them disabled. So ask them, To the disbelievers in Mecca, the sentence of this verse contains the meaning of takr or tawbik, that is, it contains a tone of judgment or reproach. Are they those who are stronger in their events or those who have? We created them, namely the angels, the heavens, the earth, and all that is between them. The bringing of the word man contains the meaning of prioritizing rational creatures. Indeed, we have created them, their origin, namely Prophet Adam, and clay, soil that sticks to the hand when held. Meaning, their creation is from something weak, therefore they should not be arrogant and proud, namely denying the Prophet Saw, and the Quran, which can easily cause them to fall into the abyss of destruction. Even, the word ball here shows the meaning of integral, namely the shift from one topic of conversation to another, namely the discussion of the situation of the Prophet Muhammad and the infidels of Mecca. You are surprised. The discussion of this verse is directed to the Prophet Saw. Namely, you are surprised at their denial of you, and they insult you because of your surprise. And if they were given a lesson, that is, advised with the verses of the Quran, they did not remember
them. They did not use it as a lesson.
And when they see a sign of Allah's greatness, such as the splitting of the moon, they despise it, they insult it and mock it. And they say, regarding the existence of the sign of Allah's greatness, there is nothing else, nothing other than, this is only real magic. It is clear that it is magic. Then they said while denying the existence of the day of resurrection, if we have died and become dirt and bones, will we really be resurrected? The pronunciation of A, Idza, and Ayana can also be read Tashil, so the reading becomes Ayadza and Ayana. And what were our fathers in the past? If you read O means the letter Athaf, if you read Owa, it means the letter Istifam, Wawu is the letter Athaf, while Mathaf, Alay is Ina, and Isim in Mahal, or given to Damar, which is contained in the Lamabatsuna pronunciation, Hamza Istifam as the separator. That is, will our ancient fathers also be resurrected? Say to them, yes, they will surely be raised to life again, and you will be humiliated. You will be the humiliated ones because of it. So actually the resurrection is only with the dammer in this verse is mubham, unclear. Then it is interpreted by the next verse, a scream, or just one rebuke. Then suddenly they, namely all creatures, become alive again while seeing what was done to them. And they said, namely the disbelievers, alas. The pronunciation of Yahir shows the meaning of tanbi, woe to us, we will perish. Alwell pronunciation is a form of mashdar which does not have a verb in its own pronunciation. Then the angel said to the disbelievers, this is the day of retribution, the day of reckoning for deeds and retribution. 021. This is the day of judgment among all creatures, which you always deny. Then the angels were commanded, gather together the wrongdoers, namely those who have wronged themselves because they have committed polytheism, along with their companions, their close friends, namely the devils, and the gods they used to worship. Apart from Allah, are idols, so show them, and lead them to the path of ignorance, or the path to hell, and detain them in the resting place or Ash-Shirat, for verily they will be questioned regarding all their words and deeds. It was said to them in a tone containing insults and ridicule, why don't you help? Meaning why some of you don't help others as you are in the world. And it was said to them, even they surrendered themselves on that day, or they submitted in a state of humiliation. Some of them turned towards each other arguing, criticizing each other and arguing with each other. They said that some of their followers said to their leaders, indeed you are the ones who came to us from the right, meaning, in terms of that we feel confident in you, because you have sworn to us that you are truthful, therefore we believe in you, and we follow you, meaning that indeed you have led us astray. They say, those are the leaders whom they follow. Actually you are the ones who do not believe, and indeed you would not believe in the misguidance we are committing if you were believers, you would surely disbelieve in us. And while we have no power over you, we do not have the ability to force you to follow us. In fact, you are a people who go beyond the limits, meaning people who are astray like us. Then surely, or surely, upon us, all, the decision of our Lord, is his punishment, namely as he has revealed in another verse, indeed, I will fill hell with jinn and humans together. QS As-Sajda 13. Indeed, we, all, will feel the punishment with that decision, which will eventually make them say, so we have led you astray, as an explanation of the words of those who are quoted in his word, indeed we are those who are astray. Allah SWT said, so verily they will be on that day, on the day of resurrection, together in doom, because they were united in error. Indeed that is, the meaning as we treat those we do to evil people other than them. Namely, we will definitely punish the misguided people and their followers. Verily they are these people, addressed to them because based on the next explanation, namely, previously when it was said to them, La ilaha illallah, there is no God but Allah, they boasted. And they say, do we really pronounce Ayana can also be read as Ayana, must leave. Our gods because of a mad poet, namely for the sake of Muhammad. Allah SWT said, actually, Muhammad has come to bring the truth and justified the apostles, who also came to bring the truth, namely the sentence La ilaha illallah / there is no God but Allah. Indeed you, in this expression contains iltifat because it is true that Inahum will certainly feel a painful punishment. And you will not be given recompense except recompense for what you did. But the servants of Allah who are cleansed, namely the servants of Allah who believe, the istitsna here is munkathi, and the retribution is mentioned in the next word, namely, they will receive, in paradise, a certain provision, every morning and evening. Namely fruits, become badal or a thafbayan from the word rizqan, namely various kinds of sustenance that are eaten only to be enjoyed, not to maintain health. Because the people of paradise no longer need to maintain health because they have been created to live eternally and healthily forever. And they are the ones who are honored, with abundant rewards from Allah SWT.
In the heavens full of pleasure.
On thrones of greatness facing each other, meaning, some of them sit facing each other, so that some of them do not see the nape of each other's neck. It was distributed to them, meaning, to each of them was distributed, a glass, which is a container for drinking along with the drink, which contains wine from the river of wine, which flows like a river on earth. Its color is white, whiter than milk, it tastes good, it tastes very delicious, for those who drink it. Unlike the wine in this world which when drunk tastes bad. There is no alcohol in that wine, which is a substance that makes their minds drunk, and they are not drunk by it, can be read as yanzafuna or yanzafuna, which comes from the sentence, Nazafasi Sayaribu and Anzafa, meaning intoxicating, meaning that the wine of paradise is not intoxicating unlike the wine in this world. By their side there are maidens whose gaze is not wild, namely maidens who always lower their gaze, or in other words, they only look at their husbands and do not look at other people, because according to them their husbands are the most capable people and have beautiful eyes, meaning the eyes of these maidens are very beautiful. As if they are the color of their skin, as if it were an ostrich's egg, well preserved, like an ostrich's egg protected by its mother's feathers, so that not a single dust sticks to it, and likewise its color is yellowish white. Such a skin color is the skin color of the most beautiful women. Then some of them will turn to some of the inhabitants of paradise, to one another while conversing, about what they had done in this world. One of them said, indeed, I once had a friend in this world, namely a friend who denied the existence of the day of resurrection. Who said, to me in a mocking tone, are you really one of those who confirm the existence of a day of resurrection? If we have died and we have become dirt and bones, what are we really? The two letters Hamza in the three places mentioned above, namely Ayanaka, Ayada and Ayana can be read Takik and can also read Tashil. Will you really be resurrected for retribution? Does it mean you will be avenged and reckoned with? He turned out to be in denial about this. He also said, that is, the dweller of paradise who said to his friend, would you like to see the condition of my friend? Meaning together to see what his friend is experiencing in hell? His friend replied, no. Then he looked at him, namely the one who said that from one of the windows of paradise. Then he saw his friend, namely his friend who denied the day of resurrection, in the midst of the blazing hell, in the midst of hell. He also said, in a mocking tone, by Allah, indeed, the pronunciation of in here is the takfif form of inna. You almost harmed me, to destroy me through your misdirection. Were it not for the favor of my Lord, upon me in the form of faith, I would have been among those dragged, with you into the fire. And the people of paradise will say,
then will we not die?
But only our first death, which is our death in this world, and we will not be tortured in this hereafter. Istifham, or the question word here, contains the meaning of determining the pleasure they feel and as an expression of their gratitude for the blessings that Allah has bestowed upon them, namely that they are made to live eternally with full pleasure and not tortured forever. Verily this is what I have explained about the condition of the people of paradise. It is truly a great victory. For such a victory let the people of good deeds strive. According to one opinion, this statement is addressed to them. And according to another opinion, it is said that they are the ones who said this. What are these? The things that have been mentioned for the people of heaven are better dishes, treats or dishes intended to entertain guests or people staying overnight, or the zakum tree, which are provided for the people of hell. The zakum tree is the worst tree and is very bitter in taste. Its place of origin is Tahama. Allah grew the tree in the hell of Jahim, as will be explained later. Indeed, we made the zakum tree, meaning that the tree grew in hell, as a slander for the wrongdoers, namely the disbelievers in Mecca, because they said that the fire burns. Trees, how could trees possibly grow in hell? Indeed, it is a tree that came out from the depths of the blazing fire, namely from the depths of hell, and its branches extend to its recesses. The crown is likened to the crown of a date palm tree, like the heads of devils, meaning, like snakes that are very ugly and disgusting in appearance. Then indeed they, namely the disbelievers, actually ate part of the tree, even though it tasted very disgusting, because they were very hungry, so they filled their stomachs with the zakum fruit. 067. Then after eating from the fruit of the zakum tree, they will certainly receive a drink mixed with very hot water, which they drink, until what they eat and what they drink mixes in their stomachs. Then verily their place of return will be the hellfire. This verse gives the understanding that they first come out of hell to drink the water of Hammim, or the very hot water, and that the very hot water is outside hell. Because verily they found their fathers in a state of error. Then they were very hasty to follow in the footsteps of their parents, or were in a hurry to follow them. Therefore they were in a hurry to follow the error of their fathers, without thinking any further.
And indeed the former people had gone astray before them.
And indeed we have sent among them warners, namely messengers who warn them. So pay attention to the end of those who were warned, namely those who disbelieved, then they will be punished. Except for Allah's servants who are cleansed from their sins, namely the believers, they are actually saved from punishment because of their sincerity in worshipping Allah. Or because Allah has cleansed them from their sins. This meaning is based on the qira'at that reads Makashina. Indeed, Noah called to us through his prayer, as quoted by another verse, namely his words. Indeed, I am a defeated person, therefore, me is victorious. QS Al-Qamar 10. Then indeed the best of those who allow prayer is us. That is, Noah prayed to Allah to win over his people, then Allah destroyed them through a great flood until they all drowned. And we saved him and his family from the great disaster, namely from the great flood. 077. And we made his descendants people who continue the lineage, so that all mankind are the descendants of Prophet Nuh, as Prophet Nuh had 3 sons, namely Sam, who was the ancestor of the Arabs, the Persians, and the Romans. Ham, who was the ancestor of the black people, Yafets, who was the ancestor of the Turks, the Khazar, Yajuj, and Majuj, and others. And we preserved for Noah good praise among those who came later, namely the prophets and all mankind until the day of resurrection.
We bestowed peace upon Noah from us through both the worlds.
Indeed, such are we, meaning as we reward them, we reward those who do good.
Indeed, he is among our believing servants.
Then we drowned the other people, namely the disbelievers from the people of the prophet Noah. And verily from the group of Noah, who followed him in the basic matters of religion, namely the matter of monotheism, was Ibrahim, even though the time gap between them was very far, namely 2,640 years, and between them were the prophets Hud and Salah. Remember when he came to his Lord, meaning he followed him when he came to his people, with a pure heart, from doubt and other things. Remember when he said, while he was in that state, namely free from doubts towards his Rabb, to his father and his people, in a reproachful tone, what do you worship? Is it by lying? The 2 Hamza letters in this verse can be read Tahqiq or Tazhil, you want deities other than Allah. Ifkan's pronunciation is Mafullah, and Aliha's pronunciation is Maful Bih for Turaduna's pronunciation. Alifka means the worst lie. The meaning in question is, do you worship other than Allah? 087. So what do you think of the Rabb of the worlds? If you worship other than him, do you think that he will let you go without punishing you? Of course not. He will definitely punish you. They are astrologers. Then they went out on their feast days and placed their food in front of their idols, thinking that this would bring blessings to their food. When they returned, they ate the food go out. Then he looked once at the stars, to deceive them, that he believed in the stars, so that they would not suspect him. Then he said, indeed I am sick, meaning, I will experience pain. 090. Then they turned away from him, headed to their place of celebration, with their backs turned. Then he left quietly, or the Prophet Ibrahim went quietly towards, to their idols, at that time in front of him there were many dishes of food. Then he said, in a sarcastic tone addressed to the idols, "Their idols, are you not eating?" But the idols remained silent. So Abraham said, "Why don't you answer?" But the idols didn't answer. Then he faced the idols and struck them with his right hand, meaning with all his strength until the idols shattered into pieces. News of the destruction of the idols reached his people through the people.
People who Shallallahu Alaihi Wasallam Prophet Ibrahim destroying him.
Then his people came to him rushing. They walked in a hurry. Then they said to Prophet Ibrahim, "We worshipped it while you broke it." Ibrahim said to them in a sarcastic tone, "Do you worship the statues that you carved from stone and from other materials as the idols that you worship? And Allah is the one who created you and what you do, namely about what you carve and the results of your carving, so worship him and make him one." The letter Ma here according to one opinion is Ma Mashtariya, according to another opinion it is Ma Maushula, and according to another opinion it is Ma Maushafa. They said, among themselves, "Build a building for him, then gather firewood under it, and light a fire on it. Then when it is lit, throw it into the burning fire, i.e. into the fire that has grown in flames." They wanted to play a trick on him, by throwing him into a burning fire to destroy him, so we made them despicable people, those who were defeated, because it turns out that Prophet Ibrahim came out of the fire safe and sound. And Ibrahim said, "Indeed, I am going to my Rabb," meaning migrating for his sake, leaving the land of the disbelievers, and he will guide me to the place where he ordered me to go, namely the land of Sham. When he arrived at the Holy Land, namely Baitul Maqdis, he said in his prayer,
O my Rabb, grant me a child who is among the pious people.
So we gave him good news of a very patient son, who had much patience. Then when the child reached the age of being able to work with Ibrahim, that is, he had reached the age so that he could help him work, according to one opinion, the child was 7 years old. According to another opinion, at that time the son of Prophet Ibrahim was 13 years old. Abraham said, "O my son, indeed I see," meaning, has seen, in a dream that I slaughter you. The dreams of the prophets are true dreams, and all their work is based on the command of Allah SWT. So think about what you think about my dream. Prophet Ibrahim consulted with him so that he would obey, be willing to be slaughtered, and obey his command. He replied, "O my father, the letter ta in the pronunciation of abadi is a replacement for yod hafa. Do what you are commanded. To do it, God willing, you will find me among those who are patient in dealing with this matter." When both of them had submitted, meaning submitting and obeying the command of Allah SWT, and Ibrahim laid his son on his temple, Prophet Ismail was laid on one of his temples. Every human being has 2 temples, and between them is the forehead. This incident occurred in Mina. Then Prophet Ibrahim slit his large knife against Prophet Ismail's neck, but thanks to the power of Allah the knife did not have the slightest effect.
And we call him O Ibrahim.
Indeed, you have justified your dream through what you have done, namely carrying out the slaughter that was ordered, or in other words, that is sufficient for you. The number of sentences Nahu is the answer to the pronunciation of Lama, only added wow. Indeed it is so. That is, as we reward you. We reward those who do good towards themselves by carrying out what they are commanded. Namely, we will deliver them from difficulties. Verily this, slaughtering which is commanded is a clear test, or a clear trial. And we redeemed the child, meaning the child who was ordered to be slaughtered, Prophet Ismail. According to one opinion, the child who was slaughtered was the Prophet Isaac, with a slaughter, namely a large lamb from heaven, namely the same lamb as the lamb that was sacrificed by Abel. The angel Gabriel brought the sheep, then Prophet Ibrahim slaughtered it while reciting the takbir. We immortalized, we preserved, for Abraham among those who came after him, good praise.
Prosperity from us bestowed upon Abraham.
So, as we rewarded Abraham, we reward those who do good themselves.
Indeed, he is among our believing servants.
And we gave him the good news of the birth of Isaac. From this verse it can be concluded that the child who was slaughtered was not Prophet Isaac, but another son of Prophet Ibrahim, namely Prophet Ismail, a prophet. Became the hal of the word whose existence was predicted, meaning that later he would become a prophet, who is included among the pious people. We bestowed blessings on him by multiplying his descendants, and upon Isaac, the sons of the prophet Abraham, that is, we made most of his descendants prophets. And among his children and grandchildren there are those who do good, that is, those who believe, and there are also those who are tyrannical towards themselves, whose disbelief is, obviously, real. And indeed we bestowed blessings on Moses and Aaron, namely the blessings of prophethood. And we saved them both and their people, the children of Israel, from a great calamity, from the slavery that Pharaoh had imposed upon them. And we helped them from the grip of the Copts, and they became a people who were victorious. And we gave them both a clear book, in which are contained laws and limits and other matters, all of which are clearly and plainly explained in it. The book in question is the Torah. And we guided them both to the path, namely, to the straight guidance. And we preserved, for both of them among those who came after, good praise.
That is, you will fare from us, bestowed upon Moses and Aaron.
Indeed that is, the meaning, as we reward both of them, we reward those who do good.
Indeed, both of them are among our believing servants.
And verily Elias can be read as Ilias or Elias, truly one of the apostles, according to one opinion that the prophet Elias was the son of the brother of the prophet Harun and the prophet Musa. According to another opinion, no, he was sent by Allah to the people who lived in the city of Baalbek and its surroundings. Remember when the pronunciation of Itzir is dishabed by the pronunciation of Udskar, whose existence is thought to be.
He said to his people, why don't you fear Allah?
Should you worship Baal? Baal is the name of an idol made of gold, and with the name of that idol their country was also named, then changed to the pronunciation Bik, so it became Baalabak. The meaning of this verse is why you worship it, and leave it means you do not worship the best creator, namely Allah. Meaning why don't you worship Allah?
Namely Allah, your Lord and the Lord of your forefathers. If it is read as Allah ahurabukum warabu abaikum, it means that previously there was the word huwa. If it is read as Allah aharabakum waraba abaikum, it means that it became a substitute for the word asana khalikina.
So they will deny it, therefore they will be dragged into hell. Except for the servants of Allah who are cleansed from sin, namely the servants of Allah who believe, they are saved from the
fire.
And we immortalized for Elias among those who came after him, good praise. That is, prosperity, from us, bestowed upon Eliasin. In question is the prophet Elias who was mentioned earlier. He is called that in Taglib, in the same way as the Arabs say when they name Muhalab and his people, they name him al-Mohalabun. And according to the Kirat that reads it becomes Ali Yasina with the harakat Hamza extended, meaning the family of Prophet Elias, and the meaning in question is Prophet Elias too. Indeed it is so, as we reward him, we reward those who do good.
Indeed he is among our believing servants. And indeed Lut really was an apostle.
Remember when we saved him and his family and all his followers. Except for an old woman whose wife is with the bereaved person, those who are bereaved will be struck with punishment. Then we destroyed other people, namely those who disbelieved from their people. And indeed you, O people of Mecca, will indeed pass through them, through their traces and dwelling places if you travel, in the morning, meaning during the day. And at night, then will you not reflect, O people of Mecca, on what has befallen them of punishment, because you then take a lesson from it.
Indeed Jonah was truly one of the apostles.
Remember when he ran away, meaning, he ran away, to a ship full of cargo. This happened when he was at odds with his people, because it turned out that the punishment he threatened his people with did not come down. Finally he ran away on a ship. And the ship he was on stopped in the middle of the sea with big waves. The ship's helmsman said that in this ship there is a slave who has run away from his master. This will be clearly seen through the drawing of lots. Then he took part in the lottery. The passengers on the ship were all drawn. Then he was one of those who lost in the lottery. As a result, he was thrown into the sea. So he was swallowed by a big fish, swallowed whole, in a disgraceful state, because he committed a disgraceful act, namely going by sea and then boarding a ship leaving his people, without prior permission from his lord. 143. So if he is not one of those who performed tasbih, namely always remembering Allah, through his dhikr in the belly of the fish while saying, La ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu minaz zalimina, meaning, there is no God but you. Glory be to you. Verily I am one of those who persecute. Undoubtedly, he will remain in the fish's stomach until the day he rises, meaning the stomach of the big fish will undoubtedly become his
grave until the day of judgment.
Then we threw him from the belly of the big fish into a barren area, on the barren surface of the earth, namely to the shore on the same day, after 3 days, 7 days, 20 days, or after 40 days since he was swallowed by the big fish. While he was sick, he was emaciated and sick like a sick chick. And we caused to grow for him a tree of the type of gourd, which shaded him with its trunk, unlike the usual gourd tree. This was a miracle for him, for every morning and evening wild goats came to him, and he drank from their breasts until he became strong again. And we sent him, after that as before, to the Bunanawi people who lived in the area of Mashal, to 100,000 people, or even more than that, namely more than 20 or 30 or 70,000 people. Then they believed, when they witnessed the punishment that had been promised to them, therefore we gave them the enjoyment of life, meaning, we let them enjoy the wealth that they had, for a certain time, until their death came. Ask them, the disbelievers of Mecca. This expression is meant as a taunt against them, are you for your Lord daughters, in accordance with their supposition that the angels are the daughters of Allah, and for them sons, they choose the stronger and the better. Or did we create the angels in the form of females, and they were witnesses to our creation? That is why they say this? Know that they are indeed lying. With their lies, they are truly lying. Say, Allah begot, through their saying that the angels are the daughters of Allah. And verily they are liars in this matter. Did God choose the pronunciation of Ashtafa Hamza to be Hamza Istifham with a Fata movement? Therefore Hamza Wasal is no longer needed, therefore it is discarded. Namely, does Allah give priority to daughters over sons?
What happened to you? How did you establish this defective conclusion?
Then do you not consider that Allah is most high and most pure from having children? Or do you have clear evidence, means a clear proof that Allah has a son? Then bring your book, your Torah, then show me therein, if you are truthful, in your sayings and your conjectures. And they made, those polytheists, among him, namely Allah SWT, and among the jinn, namely angels, they are called al-jinnah because they cannot be seen by the eye, relationship of lineage, through their words which state that these angels are the daughters of Allah. And verily the jinn know that they, namely those who say so, will indeed be dragged into hell, and they will be punished therein. Glory be to Allah. This sentence sanctifies him from what they attribute, namely that Allah has a son. Except those servants of Allah who are cleansed from sin, that is, except those who believe. Istitsna here is munkathi in nature. This means that those who believe purify Allah SWT from what they have attributed to him. So indeed you and what you worship are idols of your worship. You will never be able to, through your idols, the words alayhi ta'aluk to the next word, which is to lead anyone astray, except for those who will enter the burning hell, according to the knowledge of Allah SWT. The angel Gabriel said to the Prophet Saw, there is not one among us, angels, but who has a certain position in the sky. In that place he worships Allah and does not transcend other places or positions. And verily we stand in rows, meaning straightening the soles of our feet in prayer. And verily we glorify Allah, purifying Allah from that which is unworthy of him. Indeed, the pronunciation of in here is the takfif form of the pronunciation of inna. They, namely the disbelievers of Mecca, will say, if only we had a warning, that means a book, from the ancient people, namely from the books that were revealed to the ancient people. Indeed we will be true servants of Allah, means worshipping him alone. Allah says, but they denied it, denied the book that was revealed to them, namely the Quran, a book that is more noble than the books that were revealed before. Later they will know the result of their disbelief and denial. And indeed our promise remains, our help to our servants who become messengers, is as stated in another of his words, I and my messengers will surely win. QS Al-Mujadillah 21. Or the promise as he reveals in the following verse, namely, indeed, they are the ones who will surely receive help. And indeed our army is the believers, that is the one who will definitely win over the disbelievers through blasphemy and obtain victory over them in this world. And if some of those who believe do not achieve victory over the disbelievers in this world, then they will definitely achieve victory in the afterlife. Then turn away from them, that is, from the disbelievers of Mecca, until he commands him to fight them. and explain to them, when punishment descends on them, then they will know the consequences of their disbelief. So they said in a mocking tone, when will the punishment come down? Then Allah said, threateningly to those who said this, so do they ask that our punishment be hastened. So when the torment falls in their courtyard, that is, in their midst. In connection with the meaning of the as-Sahah pronunciation, Imam Al-Farah said that when Arabs mention a people, it is enough just to mention the yard where they live, then it is very bad, that is, the worst mourning is the mourning experienced by the person who was warned. In the expression of this verse there is Isim Zahir, who occupies the place of Isim Mudmar.
And turn away from them until a time.
And look, because they will also see. This verse is repeated with the intention of confirming the threat addressed to them, and at the same time as a reassurance for the Prophet. Glory be to your Lord, the possessor of might, which is victory over what they say, namely, that he has a son. And prosperity was bestowed upon the apostles, who conveyed the teachings of monotheism and the Sharia from Allah SWT. And praise be to Allah, the Lord of the worlds, who helps them and who destroys those who disbelieve.
Sha'ad.
Shad, only Allah knows the meaning, by the Quran which has majesty, namely the explanation or glory. The answer to the Qasim is not mentioned, namely, that the matter is not as the disbelievers of Mecca say, there are various gods. Actually, the disbelievers, namely the inhabitants of Mecca who disbelieved, were in arrogance. Hamiyah and Takabur did not want to believe, and were fiercely hostile, always opposed and hostile to the Prophet. How many were there, the people before them that we destroyed, namely from among the previous people, then? They asked for help, when the punishment befell them, even though that time was not the time to run away, meaning, to escape from doom, because it was too late. The letter ta in the Lada pronunciation is the letter zaida, and the number of sentences in this verse is positioned as a thing or conditional adverb of the fil of the nada pronunciation. That is, they ask for help even though there is no longer any way to escape, and there is no longer any way to survive the punishment. However, the pagan inhabitants of Mecca did not learn a lesson from those who had been destroyed. And they were surprised because they had a warner from among themselves, namely an apostle from among them who warned them and feared them with the punishment of hell after they were resurrected. The person in question is the Prophet Pbuh. And the disbelievers say, in this expression Isim Zahir takes the place of Isim Mudmar. This is a magician who tells many lies. Why did he make the gods only one God? That is because the Prophet once said to them, say, La ilaha illallah, meaning there is no God but Allah. They answered, how is it possible that so many creatures can all be handled by that one God? Indeed, it is truly a very surprising thing, very strange. And their leaders went out from the assembly where they had gathered, namely the place of Abu Talib. There they heard from the Prophet who said, say, La ilaha illallah, meaning there is no God but Allah, while saying, go away, meaning. Some of them said to others, go away, and continue to worship your gods, meaning persist in worshiping your gods. Indeed this, the teaching of monotheism conveyed by the Prophet, is truly something that is desired by him that we do it. We never heard of this in the last religion, meaning, the religion of the Prophet Isa. Nothing else is nothing but, this is just a made-up lie, something that is just made up. Why was it sent down? Can be read Tawkik, can also be read Tashil, to him, to Muhammad. Warning, namely the book of the Quran, among us, not sent down to the oldest among us, or the most honorable among us. That is, why was the Quran not sent down to the oldest or the most honorable among them? Then Allah said, indeed they doubt my Quran, or doubt my revelation, namely the Quran, because they deny the messenger who brought it, and in fact not yet, meaning, not yet, they tasted my punishment. If they had tasted it, they would have believed in the Prophet about what he conveyed for me. But at that time, namely when they tasted my punishment, there is no use for faith anymore. Or do they have a treasury of grace from your Almighty Rab, namely the most victorious and the most giver, including the degree of prophethood and other things, therefore they can give it to whom they wish? Or is theirs the kingdom of the heavens and the earth and all that is between them? If they think that, then let them climb ladders, that will lead them to the heavens, then they will take revelation and bring it, then they will give it specifically to whom they will. Istifham, or the question word in both places, contains the meaning of denial. An army, meaning a lowly army, there, which has lied to you, will surely be defeated, is a characteristic of the June-Dun pronunciation, even though they are composed of allied groups. The pronunciation of this verse is also an attribute of the June-dun pronunciation, namely an army that is the same as the troops that united before you who fought the prophets. Those former armies can be defeated and destroyed, so we will also destroy those who are allied to destroy you. Also, the people of Noah had denied before them. The word Calm is considered as mu'anats because in terms of its meaning, Ad and Pharaoh who had many stakes, it is mentioned that Pharaoh always staked or shackled anyone who opposed him. Then both the feet and hands of the person who opposed him were tied to 4 stakes, then tortured. Therefore he was nicknamed Zul Atad. And the Mud, the people of Luth and the people of Ika, namely the residents of the city of Al-Gida, they were the people of the prophet Shuaib.
As they were the groups who allied themselves against the apostles.
Nothing but, nothing else, everything, means that each of the allied groups only denies the apostles, because they have lied to one of the apostles. This means the same as lying to all the apostles. Apostles, because in fact their call and teaching are one, namely calling to the teachings of monotheism, then it is certain that it is obligatory for them, my punishment. There is nothing awaited, that is awaited, by them, by the disbelievers of Mecca, except only one shout, namely the blowing of the trumpet for the hour at which time they will be struck by a punishment that did not exist for them in the intervening time, meaning, after that there will be no time to live again like in the world. The word Fuaken can also be read as Fuaken. And they said, when Allah revealed His word, as for those to whom His book was given. From his right. Qs al-Haqqa, 19, O our Rab. Hurry to us the record of our deeds, namely the book of records of our deeds, before the day of reckoning. They say this in a cynical and mocking tone. Allah SWT said, be patient with all that they say. Remember our servant David who had strength. In worship, it is mentioned that throughout the year he always fasted one day and broke his fast one day, woke up at midnight to perform the prayer, then slept for 1/3 of the night, and another 1/6 of the night he used for prayer. Indeed, he was very obedient, that is, always doing things that pleased Allah SWT. Verily we subject the mountains to glorify him in the evening, at the time of the Isyak prayer, and in the morning, at the time of the Duha prayer, that is, when the sun reaches its zenith. And we also bowed down, the birds in a state of gathering, to gather to glorify together with him. Each of the mountains and birds, very obedient to him, obediently glorifies him. And we strengthened his kingdom with guards and armies, and every night the mihrab of the prophet David was always guarded by 30,000 troops, and we gave him wisdom, namely, prophecy and accuracy in various matters, and wisdom in resolving disputes, namely a satisfactory explanation in all matters. And is there, istifham, or the question word here containing the meaning of ta'jab and tasiwik, or in other words containing the meaning that encourages and stimulates the listener to listen to the next sentences, until you, O Muhammad, the news of the people who were in dispute when they climbed the mihrab fence, namely the mihrab of Prophet David, which is meant to be his mosque. This happened because they were forbidden to enter, because Prophet David was praying. Finally they entered by climbing the mihrab fence. The meaning of the verse is, have you heard their news and stories? When they came in to meet David, he was surprised by their arrival. They said, do not be afraid. We were 2 people in dispute. According to one opinion it is said that those in dispute are 2 groups, so that it is in accordance with the previous plural dammer. According to another opinion, it is said that the people in dispute are 2 people, while the plural dammer is interpreted as meaning 1 or more people transformed into 2 people who were in dispute. The dispute that occurred between them was just a parable, intended to remind the prophet David, of what he had done because he had 99 wives, only has 1 wife, and then he marries her and has sex with her. One of us does injustice to another. So judge between us fairly and do not deviate from the truth. Do not be partial, and guide us to the straight path, namely the decision that middle and fair. Indeed, this brother of mine means this brother of my religion has 99 goats. This is a figurative word for wife, and I only have 1. So he said, leave the goat to me. That is, make me her husband, and he beats me, or he wins over me, in a debate, i.e. in this dispute, and his opponent gives in. David said, indeed, he has done injustice to you by asking for your goats, with the intention of joining them, to add to his goats. In fact, most of the people who are in a union are people who are involved in one union. Some of them do injustice to others, except those who believe and do righteous deeds, and these are very few. The letter Ma is here to confirm the meaning of few. Then the 2 angels rose into the sky and changed into their original forms, saying, This man has decided the case against himself. So that the prophet David realized his mistake. Then Allah said, and David was sure, that is, he felt sure, that we were testing him. We put a test on him, in the form of a trial in the form of love for the woman, so he asked forgiveness from his Lord then bowed, meaning he prostrated and repented. So we forgave him his mistakes. And indeed he has a position close to us, namely, with added goodness to him in this world, and a good place to return in the afterlife. O David, verily we have made you a vicegerent on earth, that is, a ruler who regulates the affairs of people, so judge between people with justice and do not follow your desires, because they will lead you astray from the way of Allah, from the signs that indicate His oneness. Verily those who go astray from the way of Allah, from faith in Allah, they will receive a severe punishment because they forgot, meaning, because they forgot, the day of reckoning. This is shown by their attitude of not wanting to believe. If they believed in the day of reckoning, they would have believed in Allah while they were in the world. And we did not create the heavens and the earth and what is between them falsely, playfully. That is, namely the creation of this without wisdom. This is the opinion of the disbelievers, from the people of Mecca. Then Wayl hell. Wayl is the name of a valley in hell, for those who disbelieve, because they will go to hell. Should we consider those who believe and do righteous deeds the same as those who do mischief on the face of the earth? Should we also consider those who are pious the same as those who commit sins? This verse was revealed when people, the disbelievers in Mecca, said to the believers, indeed, in the next day we will be given what we have been given to you. The am pronunciation here is to show the meaning of refutation, namely that it is clearly not the same. This is a book, becomes kabar from mubtada, which is not mentioned, namely, this is a book, which we sent down to you full of blessings so that they pay attention. Originally the pronunciation of yadabaru was yadadabaru. Then the letter ta was substituted for the letter dal so that it became yadabaru. The verses means that they pay attention to the meanings contained in them, then they believe in them, and so that they can learn a lesson.
Get at fish, people who have thoughts, namely those who are wise.
And we gave David Solomon, as his son, he was the best of servants, meaning that Solomon was the best of servants. Indeed, he was very obedient to his Rab, always making tasbih and dhikr at all times. Remember when they were shown to him in the afternoon, that is after the sun had set, horses that were calm at the time of stopping. The word ash-shafinat is the plural form of the word shafina, meaning horses that when they stop stand on 3 legs, while the 4th leg stands on its tiptoe. This word comes from the word shafana yashfino shifunin, and fast when running. The word al-jiyad is the plural form of the word jawadin, meaning racing horses. The meaning of the verse is that the horses when they stop are calm, and when they run they are very fast. It is mentioned that Prophet Solomon had 1,000 horses. The horses were displayed in front of him after he had finished performing the Dur prayer, because he intended to wage jihad using horses as his vehicle to fight the enemy. When the appearance of the new horses reached 900, it turned out that the time for Maghrib had arrived, while he had not performed the Asr prayer. This made him sad. So he said, indeed I love, meaning with the intention of delighting in good things, namely horses, until I forget to make dhikr to my Rab, forgetting to perform the afternoon prayer, so the sun is covered from sight, means until the sun sets and is no longer visible. He said, bring the horses back to me, namely the horses that were displayed earlier. Then they brought them to Prophet Solomon. Then he slashed the horses, with his sword, on their legs. The pronunciation as-suk is the plural form of the pronunciation sakin. And on the neck, meaning Prophet Solomon slaughtered all the horses, then cut off their legs as a sacrifice to get closer to Allah SWT. Because the horses turned out to make him forgetful of prayer, then he gave their meat in charity. Finally, Allah replaced his horses with a vehicle that was much better and faster running, namely the wind vehicle. The wind can be ordered to blow by taking him wherever he wants. And verily we tested Solomon, we tried him with a test, namely that his kingdom was seized by others. That was because he had married a woman he liked, but she was one of those who worshipped idols, without the knowledge of Prophet Solomon. And it is mentioned that his greatness lay in his ring. Then one day when he intended to go to the bathroom, he took off his ring. Then he entrusted it to one of his wives whose name was Amina as usual. After he left, suddenly a jinn came who resembled Prophet Solomon. Then the jinn took the ring from Amina and immediately put it on, and we seated on his throne a body, namely the jinn, whose name was Shakir or another jinn. Then the jinn sat on Prophet Solomon's throne. At that time he was surrounded by birds and others. Then Prophet Solomon appeared in a form that was not like his usual, namely without his regalia. He saw that on his throne someone had been sitting. Then he said to the people who were there, "I am Solomon." But the people denied it. Then he returned. That is, he was able to reclaim his greatness after a few days. That is, after he had succeeded in reclaiming his greatness ring, then wore it and sat on his throne again. He said, "O my Rab, forgive me and grant me a kingdom that is not worthy of being owned. That is, it has never been owned by anyone after me," meaning that is not worthy of being owned by anyone other than me. The meaning of this expression is the same as the meaning given contained in another of his words, namely, then who will give him guidance after Allah? QS Al-Jatsiyah 23, namely other than Allah, indeed, you are the giver. Then we subjected to him the winds, blowing gently, wherever he wished, according to the will of Solomon. And we also subjected to him the devils, all of them master builders, who are skilled at making amazing and strange buildings, and divers, who are experts at diving in the sea to retrieve the pearls contained therein. And the other devils, who are bound, are chained, in fetters, that is, each of their hands is tied to his head with fetters. And we said to Solomon, "This is our gift, so give it away," meaning, give some of it to those you like, or withhold it, meaning, do not give it away, without accountability, without there being a reckoning for you in this matter. And indeed, he has a position close to us and a good place to return to. The interpretation of this verse is as before. And remember our servant Job when he called to his Lord, "Indeed I am, that I am, troubled by Satan with hardship, harm, and torment, namely pain." The prophet Job attributed this to Satan, even though in reality everything came from Allah SWT, intended as the prophet Job's courtesy towards Allah. It was said to Job, "Strike it," meaning stomp, your foot on the earth. Then he struck it. After that, suddenly a spring flowed from where his foot had stomped. Then it was also said to him, "This is water for bathing," meaning, wash yourself with water of this, which is cold, and for drinking, drink ye of it. Prophet Job immediately took a bath and drank, and all the diseases inside and outside his body disappeared. And we blessed him by reuniting his family, and we increased them by the number of them. Meaning, Allah brought his dead children back to life, and increased him by the number of other children who had died, as a mercy, as a favor and a gift, from us, and a lesson, and an admonition, for people who have minds, that is, for people of understanding. And take with your hand a bundle of grass, namely a bundle of weeds or a bundle of twigs, then hit. With that, your wife, because the prophet Job once swore that he would really hit his wife 100 times, because one day he disobeyed his orders, and don't break the oath, by not hitting her. Then the prophet Job took 100 sticks of idskar wood, or other wood, then he hit his wife with one blow. Indeed, we found him a patient man. He is the best of servants, was the prophet Ayub. Indeed, he was very obedient to Allah SWT. And remember our servants, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who have strength in terms of worship and a sharp view in religious matters. According to Akirat, the pronunciation of Ibadana is read Abdana in mafrad form, while the pronunciation of Ibrahim is a thafbayan for him, and the pronunciations that follow are attributed to the pronunciation of Abdana. 046. Indeed, we have purified them by bestowing upon them high morals, namely, always reminding people of the land of the afterlife, or the world of the afterlife. The intention is to remind people of the hereafter and encourage them to do good deeds as preparations for facing it. According to Akirat, it is read by Kalashadi Zikraddar, which is modified to show the meaning of bayan or description. And verily, with us, they are of the chosen ones, namely the chosen ones, the best ones. The word al-Akhyar is the plural form of the word Kairan, which means the best. And remember Ismail, Ilyasa is Yasu, he was a prophet. The letters Aleph and Lam are Zaida or additions, and Zulkifli, whose prophethood is still disputed. According to one opinion, it is said that he once guaranteed 100 prophets who took refuge in him to avoid being killed. All means each of them, including the best people. The pronunciation of Al-Akhyar is the plural form of the pronunciation Kairan, meaning the best person. This is an honor for them, namely to receive good praise here. And indeed for the pious, among them, will be provided a good place of return, later in the hereafter. Namely the Garden of Eden becomes Badal or a Thafbayan for the word Lahusna Mab, whose doors are open for them.
Meaning, the doors of paradise are wide open for them.
Therein they will recline, on couches, asking for plenty of fruits and drink in that paradise. And with them are maidens whose gaze is not wild. That is, they only look at their husbands and lower their gaze from others, and are of the same age. Their age is the same, that is, about 33 years. The word treban is the plural form of the word turban. These, things that have been mentioned, what you were promised, can be read as Uaduna or Tuaduna. If read as Tuaduna, it means iltifat on the day of reckoning, at the time of the day of reckoning. Indeed, this is truly our endless sustenance, which never ends. This number of verses becomes hail from the
Laris kuna a pronunciation, or as the second haber from Ina, meaning forever.
This is the situation experienced by those who believe. And indeed for those who are disobedient. The sentence of this verse is the number of istianaf or new sentences, really provided with the worst place to return to. That is hell, which they entered, they were thrown into, then hell is very bad as a place to live in. Meaning, the worst expanse. This is the punishment of hell. This meaning is concluded from the following words. Let them taste it, their drink is very hot water, and burning, and the pus of the people of hell. Can be read as gasakan or gasakan, meaning the melting pus of the people of hell. And other punishments can be read in plural form so that it becomes akaru, or it can also be read in mufrad form so that the reading becomes akaru, which is similar to the punishment mentioned above, namely very hot water and pus fluid. Various kinds of torment, that is, their doom varies. 059. And it was said to them that when they were dragged into hell together with their followers, this was a group, a wave, coming in, was pressed in, with you, into hell. These words were said to them in a harsh tone. Then said their disobedient leaders, there is no welcome to them, meaning, there is no room for them, because indeed they will go to hell. Their followers said, actually it is you. There is no welcome for you, because you are the ones who plunged us into disbelief, so it is a very bad place to live for us and you, namely hell. They said, again, O our Rab, whoever plunges us into this punishment, then increase his punishment by double the punishment he received, as a reward for his disbelief in hell. And they say, namely the disbelievers of Mecca, while they are in hell, why did we not see those whom we previously considered, while in the world, as despicable people? Did we make fun of them in the past? The pronunciation Sikrian can also be read as Sikrian, that is, we used to insult them when we were on earth. The letter yes in the Sikrian pronunciation is nazab. What does it mean? Are they not there? Or because they don't see? That is, they are blocked, our eyes from seeing them, so that our eyes cannot see them. What they mean is poor Muslims such as Ammar, Bilal, Shahab, and Salman. Indeed, this will certainly happen. It will certainly happen, namely, the quarrels of the inhabitants of hell, as has been explained above. Say, O Muhammad, to the disbelievers of Mecca, indeed, I am only a warner, one who warns you of hell, and there is no God but Allah, the one and all-conquering, of all his creatures. The Rab of the heavens and the earth and what is between them, the Almighty, namely the most victorious in all his things, and the most forgiving towards his lovers.
Say, them. The news is big news.
Which you turned away from the Quran which I preached and brought to you. In it there are things that cannot be known, but only by means of revelation. What is meant by the great news is 069. I do not have the slightest knowledge about Al-Malal Allah, namely the angels, when they argued, about the Prophet Adam, when Allah said, indeed, I will make a caliph on the face of the earth. QS al-Baqarah 30. No thing has been revealed to me, except that I only a clear warner, meaning the warning is clear.
Remember, when your Rab said to the angels, indeed he will create a man from clay, namely Adam.
So when I have perfected the event has been completed, and I have blown it, I will channel to it the spirit of my creation, so that it will become alive. The making of the recitation of the spirit towards Allah is intended to glorify Prophet Adam. The spirit is a body that is soft and invisible to the eye, which makes humans live because it enters their body, so you should bow down by prostrating to it. Prostrate yourself in reverence by bowing your body. 073. Then all the angels bowed down. In this verse there are two tawgid, namely the Kulahum pronunciation and the Ajma, Una 074 pronunciation. Except for the devil, he is the father of the jinn who previously mixed with the angels, him boasts, and is one of those who disbelieve, according to the knowledge of Allah. Allah said, O Satan, what prevents you from prostrating yourself to that which I have created with my 2 hands of power? Meaning, that which I have directly arranged its creation. This expression is intended to glorify the position of Prophet Adam, because indeed every creature was created by Allah directly. Are you arrogant, now that you do not want to prostrate to him? Istifham, or the question word here, indicates the meaning of ridicule, or do you feel that you are among the higher people, feeling high so that you are arrogant and do not want to prostrate? The devil said, I am better than him, because you created me from fire, whereas you created him from earth. Allah said, then come out of heaven, according to the opinion of others from heaven. Indeed you are the ones who were expelled. Verily my curse remains upon you until the day of recompense, which is the day Allah takes recompense. The devil said, O my Rabb, give me grace until the day they are resurrected, until humans are resurrected.
Allah says, indeed you are among those who are given respite.
Until the day of the appointed time, which is the time of the first blowing of the trumpet or the day of resurrection. 082. Satan replied, by your might, I will lead them all astray. Except for your servants who are pure among them, namely those who believe. Allah says, so the truth is my oath and only the truth is what I say, can be read falhaka wal haka or falhak wal haka. If read nashab means it is nashab by the following fa'il. If the first pronunciation is nashab, according to one opinion it is said that it is nashab by the fa'il that has been mentioned. According to another opinion it is nashab because it becomes mashdar, the original form is yuhikal haka. According to another opinion it is because the kasam letter is removed. It is read rafa on the basis that it becomes mubtada which is removed kabarnia, the original form is falhak miniyai. According to another opinion the original form is falhak kasami, and the answer to the kasam is the following sentence, namely, indeed, I will definitely fill hell with you, along with your descendants, and with those who follow you among them, namely humanity, all of them. Say, I do not ask you for this, for delivering this message, any reward, from you at all, and I am not of those who invent, meaning, I have fabricated a Quran for myself. There is nothing else. This Quran is only a warning, is advice and warning, for the universe, meaning for humans, jinn, and intelligent creatures other than angels. And verily you will know, O disbelievers of Mecca, the news of the Quran, the news of its truth, after a certain time, namely on the day of resurrection. The word alima means arafa, which means to know. The letter lam before it is lam kasam for the estimated pronunciation. The original form is Malahi Ladalamana.
Az-Zumar.
The revelation of this book, namely the Quran, position as mubtaba, from Allah, position as kabar from mubtada, the Almighty, in His kingdom, again the most wise, in His actions. Indeed, we have sent down to you, O Muhammad, the book of the Quran bearing the truth, the pronunciation of Bilhaki Berdoluk to the pronunciation of Anzalna. So worship Allah by purifying obedience to Him, namely from polytheism, meaning
monotheist of Him.
Remember, only to Allah is pure obedience. No one has the right to receive it apart from Him. And those who took other than Him, who took idols as protection, they were the disbelievers of Mecca who said, we do not worship them except that they bring us as close to Allah as possible, namely to draw us closer to Him. The pronunciation of Zulfa is mashdar, which has the same meaning as the pronunciation of takribin/get closer. Indeed, Allah will decide between them and the Muslims about what they differ about. Regarding religious matters, then those who believe will go to heaven and those who disbelieve will go to hell. Indeed, Allah does not appoint a liar, namely the person who says to Allah that he has children, again very disbelieved, because he worships someone other than Him. If Allah wants to take a child, as they say, namely as quoted by His words, the most gracious God has taken, had, a child. Qs Al-Anbiya, 26. Of course He will choose what He wills among the creatures He created, to make Him children, not like what they have said, that the angels are the daughters of Allah, Uzair is the son of Allah and also the Messiah is the son of Allah. Glory be to Allah. This sentence sanctifies Him from taking children. He is the one and only Allah and all-conquering, all His creatures. He created the heavens and the earth with the right purpose. The pronunciation of Bilhaki is ta'alluq to the pronunciation of Kalaka. he closes, namely inserting night over day, so that the nighttime increases, and closes the day, inserts it, over the night, so that the day increases, and he subdues the sun and the moon, each running, in its orbit, until the appointed time, namely the day of resurrection. Remember, he is the Almighty, the most victorious over all his things, and the most avenging of his enemies, and most forgiving to his lovers. He created you from a single person, from Adam, then he made from him his wife, Eve, and he sent down for you livestock, namely camels, cows, goats, sheep, and rams, 8 in pairs, namely of each type of pair, namely a male and a female, as has been explained in the chapter of Al-An'am. He creates you in the wombs of your mother's generation by generation, namely from semen, then a clot of blood, then a lump of flesh, in 3 darknesses, namely the darkness of the belly, the darkness of the womb, and the darkness of the protective membrane of the baby. It is Allah, your Lord, the Lord of the kingdom. There is no God but He, so how can you be turned away from worshipping Him? Then you worship others. If you disbelieve, then indeed Allah does not need you, and He does not approve of disbelief for His servants, even if there are among His servants who will it. And if you thank Allah, then you will believe, undoubtedly. He is pleased with Tasyakar, can be read Yarda or Yardahu, meaning He will certainly be pleased with Tasyakar, you, and will not bear sin, namely someone who has committed sins, people, other, meaning a person whose sins will not bear the sins of others. Then to your Rabb you will return, and He will inform you of what you have done. Indeed, He is all-knowing of what is stored in your chests, in your hearts. And when a person is befallen, that is, a person who disbelieves, disadvantage, he begs for help from his Rabb, that is, groans to Him for help, by returning, that is, repents, to Him. Then if the Rabb grants him favor, He gave him favors. From him forget him, meaning, he abandoned what he once cried for, that is, forgot his groaning to him before that, forgot Allah. The pronunciation Mahir means man, and he creates partners for Allah, rivals for him, to mislead humans. The pronunciation of Laidhillah can be read Laidhillah from his way, from Islam. Say, have fun with your disbelief for a while. For the rest of your life, indeed you are among the inhabitants of hell. Is the person read Aman and can be read Aman, the one who worships, who stands up to do obedient deeds, namely praying at night, by prostrating and standing in prayer, while he is afraid to the hereafter, namely fearing the punishment on that day, and hoping for mercy, namely heaven, his Rabb, whether he is the same as those who are disobedient because they commit disbelief or other sinful acts. According to other qirats, the pronunciation of Aman is read Am man separately, so the pronunciation of Am means ball or Hamza istifham. Say, are there people who know and people who don't know? Of course not. It's the same as the difference between a pious person and an ignorant person. Indeed, people who can receive lessons means people who accept advice. Only people who are wise are people who have thoughts.
Say, O my faithful servants, fear your Rabb, be afraid of His punishment, namely by obeying
Him. People who do good in this world obtain, through obedience to their Rabb, goodness, namely heaven. And Allah's earth is wide, so emigrate to another country, leaving the disbelievers in order to avoid witnessing evil things. Indeed, those who are patient are those who are satisfied, who are patient in carrying out obedience and patient in enduring the trials that befall them. Their reward is unlimited, that is, without using balances or scales anymore. Say, indeed, I am commanded to worship Allah by purifying obedience to Him from acts of shirk. And I was ordered to be the first to surrender, from among this people. 013. Say, indeed, I fear the torment of a great day if I disobey my Lord. Say, Allah alone I worship by purifying obedience to Him from acts of shirk or associating partners with Allah. Then worship what you will besides Him. In the expression of this verse there is a meaning of a threat to the polytheists and at the same time as a notification that they do not worship Allah SWT. Say, indeed the losers are those who lose themselves and their families on the day of resurrection, because they will be the inhabitants of the eternal fire, and because they will not get the hurries prepared for them if they are believers. Remember that is the obvious loss. The loss is clear. For them there are lumps above them, layers of fire, and under them also lumps, layers of fire. Thus Allah scares His servants with that punishment, namely His servants who believe, so that they fear Him. This understanding is concluded from the next word, namely, so fear me, O my servants. And those who avoid the thaghut, namely idols, i.e., do not worship them and turn towards Allah, for them is the good news, namely getting paradise, so convey the news to the servants of Allah.
My.
Namely, those who listen to the words and follow the best of them, following that which contains benefits for them. They are the ones whom Allah has guided, and they are the ones who have intellect, who have understanding. Is the person whose punishment has been determined included among those who are classified by his words? Indeed, I will fill hell. QS As-Sajda 13. Will you save? Meaning, take out, the person who is in hell. This sentence of the verse becomes the answer condition. Then in it there is Isim Zahir, namely the pronunciation man, which occupies the place of Isim Mudmar. And Hamza Istifham here shows the meaning of denial, namely, you will not be able to give him guidance so that you can save him from hell. But those who fear their Lord, that is, they fear him through obedience to him, they will have high places, on top of which are built high places, beneath which rivers flow, meaning rivers that flow, both under the highest places and in the lowest places, as a promise from Allah. The word Wadallahi is nishabkan by the fa'il whose existence was estimated previously. Allah will not deny his promise, or deny it. Do you not see, meaning do not know, that verily Allah sends down water from the sky, then he arranges it into springs, that is, he causes it to enter places that can be sources of water. On the earth then, he causes plants of various colors to grow with it, then they become dry, withered and withered. Then you see them. After they are green they become yellowish. Then he makes them fall apart, in pieces, that is, they fall off. Verily in that there is a lesson, a reminder, for people who have reason, for people who are willing to take heed from it to conclude the oneness and power of Allah SWT. So are those whose hearts Allah opens to accept Islam, so that they receive guidance, then they receive light from their Rabb, the same as those whose hearts are locked to death. This understanding is concluded from the next word, then the accident is great, which means, the punishment is great, for those whose hearts have been set in stone to remember Allah, meaning, to receive the Quran. They are in obvious error, they are clearly in error. Allah has sent down the best of words, the book, the Quran. The words of the book are like the words of the Ahsan al-Hadith, which are similar to each other, similar in terms of nuzum and other things, again repeated in it promises and threats and other things, tremble because of them, namely trembling with fear when his threat is mentioned. The skin of those who feel fear of their Lord, then their skin and hearts become calm at the time of remembering Allah, when they remember his promise. That is, the book of the Quran, guidance of Allah, with which he guides whom he wills. And whoever Allah leads astray, surely he has no guide. So what is the person who avoids from being thrown himself into the worst punishment on the day of resurrection, the harshest punishment, for example if he is thrown into hell with his hands tied to his head, the same as those who believe in him who was put into heaven? And it was said to those who persecuted, namely the disbelievers of Mecca, taste the reward for what you have done as retribution. Those who were before them had denied their messengers who said that the punishment would surely come, so the punishment came to them from a direction they did not expect, that they did not expect in the slightest. So Allah felt humiliation upon them, meaning they were humiliated in the form of curses, killings and so on, in the life of this world. And indeed the punishment in the hereafter is greater if they are, namely those who deny. No, the punishment the hereafter, and surely if they knew it they would not deny it. Indeed, we have made for humans in this Quran every kind of parable so that they can learn, meaning, so that they will accept its advice. This is the Quran in Arabic. This verse has the position of hal muqayyada, or an adverb that confirms that there is no crookedness in it, that there is no error and contradiction, so that they will be pious, meaning to avoid disbelief. Allah has made, for the polytheists and the monotheists, the example is a man. The word rajulan is a substitute for the word matsalan, who becomes a slave owned by several people who are partners in a dispute. That is, they are seen in disputes and their morals are very bad, and a male slave who is fully owned, belongs entirely to one man only. Are the two slaves the same? The word matsalan is in the position of tamiyaz, meaning, of course, a slave who belongs to a group is not the same as a slave who belongs to one person only. Indeed, the first slave, when ordered by each of his owners at the same time, he is confused who he should serve between them. This is the example of the polytheists, while the second slave is the example of the monotheists. All praise is for Allah alone, but most of them, The people of Mecca do not know what punishment will befall them because of their polytheism, therefore they commit polytheism. Indeed this kitab is addressed to the Prophet PBUH. Will die and they will die too. In the future you will die and they will die too. So don't wait for death to come. This verse was revealed when they felt the death of the Prophet was slow. Then indeed you, O people, regarding the wrongdoings that have occurred among you, on the day of resurrection you will argue before your Rabb. Then who means there is no one who is more wronged than the person who fabricates lies against Allah by ascribing to him a partner and a child and denies the truth of the Quran when it comes to him. Isn't hell in hell? Residence available, namely a place to stay, for people who disbelieve, of course.
Only Prophet.
And the person who brings the truth is the Prophet PBUH. And justify it, the believers. The pronunciation al-Ladzina here means al-Ladzina, which is plural. They are the pious people, meaning those who avoid polytheism. They obtain what they desire from their Rabb. Such is the reward of those who do good for themselves, thanks to their faith. So that Allah will forgive them the bad deeds they have done and reward them with a good reward for what they have done. The pronunciation of Asway and Asana means Asai and Al-Hasan. Is not Allah sufficient to protect his servant, namely the Prophet Saw? Of course, and they fear. This kitab is directed to the Prophet Saw himself with idols other than Allah, namely idols. They mean that the idols will kill him or will cripple him. And whomever Allah leads astray, there is no guide for him. And whoever is guided by Allah, no one can lead him astray. Isn't Allah Almighty, all-powerful in all his things, and has vengeance against his enemies? Of course it's true. And indeed, if the letter Lam means Kasam, you ask them, who created the heavens and the earth? Surely they will answer Allah. Say, then explain to me what you call about, whom you worship, other than Allah, namely idols. If Allah wants to bring harm to me, will your idols be able to eliminate that harm? Of course not. Or if Allah wants to give mercy to me, can they withhold his mercy? Of course not. According to a Kirat Red Kasifati Durahii and Mumsakati Ramatihi, say, Allah is sufficient for me. In him are those who submit their trust, namely those who believe only in him. Say, O my people, work according to your circumstances, your conditions. Indeed, I will work too, according to my conditions, then you will know. Who pronounces man is Isa Mashal, who will receive a humiliating punishment and will be afflicted again. That is, he will be afflicted by eternal punishment, that is eternal, namely the punishment of hell. And indeed Allah has humiliated them in the battle of Badr. 041. Indeed, we have sent down to you the Bible for mankind with the truth, the pronunciation of Bil Haki Berdoluk to the pronunciation of Anzalna. Whoever is guided, it is for him. Themselves, that is, the guidance is for themselves, and whoever goes astray then in fact he is only going astray to his own detriment, and you are in no way responsible for them, and therefore you can force them to accept the guidance. Allah causes the souls of people to die when they die and holds the souls of those who have not died during their sleep, meaning Allah holds them during their sleep. So he keeps the souls of those for whom he has decreed death and releases the other souls until a specified time for their death. The soul that is released is only its feelings dead, but it is still alive, unlike the soul that is truly killed. Indeed in the things that have been mentioned, are signs, indicating the power of Allah for a people who think, so they know that he who has the power to do this has the power to resurrect it, and the disbelievers of Quraysh do not think about this. In fact, but they take other than Allah, namely idols as gods, intercessors, before Allah later, according to their assumptions. Say to them, can they intercede, even though they have nothing other than that, and have no other things, and are not intelligent? That is, you only worship them for no other reason. This is certainly not appropriate for you. Say, all intercession belongs to Allah alone. That is, intercession is exclusively for him, so no one can give it except with his permission. To him belongs the kingdom of the heavens and the earth. Then to him he will be returned. And if the name of Allah is mentioned alone, without mentioning the name of the gods, they are annoyed, become irritated and antipathy, the hearts of those who do not believe in the afterlife. And if the names of deities other than Allah are mentioned, namely idols, suddenly they became happy. Say, O Allah, the pronunciation Allahumma means the same as Ya Allah, creator of heaven and earth. namely the one who created both, the one who knows the unseen and the real, namely what is unseen and what is real can be seen. You are the one who decides between your servants about what they always dispute regarding matters of religion. Guide me to the truth of what they dispute. And if the wrongdoers had all that is on earth and some of the like thereof, they would surely ransom themselves thereby from the evil punishment on the day of resurrection. And the punishment of Allah will become manifest to them, which they never anticipated. And it became clear to them the bad consequences of what they had done and befell, regarding to them what they used to always make fun of, namely punishment. So when a human being is befallen, what is meant is the type of human being, the danger he calls us. Then when we give it to him, we bestow upon him favors, namely gifts of favors. From us he says, indeed I was given favors only for knowledge, from Allah that I am the one who deserves it. Or in other words, because of my intelligence. Actually that means that saying is a test, a trial that is imposed on a servant, but most of them don't know that giving blessings is istidraj and a test for him. Indeed those who came before them also said that, namely the people before them, as was said by Karen and his people who said the same thing, so it was useless for them what they previously tried. Then they are struck by the bad consequences of what they have worked for, namely receiving retribution. And the wrongdoers among them, namely the Quraysh, will be hit by the bad consequences of their efforts, and they will not be able to escape from our punishment. So we inflicted on them a famine for 7 years, after which their sustenance was made easier for them. And don't they know that Allah expands sustenance, expands it, for whom He wills, as a test for him, and narrows it, limits it for whom He wills as a trial for him. Indeed, in this there are signs of Allah's power for those who believe in Him. Say, O my servants who go beyond the limits of themselves, do not despair. Can be read la taknathu or la tiknathu. Some Qur'an experts read it la taknuthu, meaning do not despair, of mercy Allah. Indeed, Allah forgives all sins, for those who repent from polytheism. Verily, He is the most forgiving, the most merciful caring. And come back, repent, to your Rabb and surrender. Be sincere in your deeds to Him before the punishment comes upon you, and then you will no longer be helped. That is, the punishment cannot be prevented if you do not repent to His. And follow the best of what is revealed to you from your Lord, namely the Quran, before the punishment comes upon you suddenly, while you are not aware of its coming. So hurry up before the time comes. Someone says, how sorry I am. The pronunciation of Ya Hasrata is originally Ya Hasrashii, meaning I am very sorry for my negligence towards Allah, namely for disobeying Him, and indeed, the pronunciation of In is Takfif form of Inna, originally Inni, namely truly I. I am one of those who really make fun of His religion and His book. Or the time comes when someone says, if only Allah would guide me to do obedience so that I will be guided. Of course I am one of those who are pious, namely those who are afraid of His punishment. Or there comes a time when someone says when he sees the punishment, if I could return to the world, I would certainly be among those who do good, namely, those who believe. So, it was said to them by Allah SWT. Indeed, my verses have come to you. That is, the Quran can give you guidance. Then you deny it and you boast. That is, you do not want to believe in my verses, and you are one of those who disbelievers. And on the day of resurrection you will see those who lie against Allah, namely those who ascribe partners and children to Him. Their faces will become black. Isn't there a place in hell, namely a place to live, for people who boasts, means, does not want to believe, it is true. And Allah will save from hell those who guard themselves from polytheism, because of their victory, because they will attain a place of victory, namely the gardens which will be their abode. They will not be touched by evil nor will they grieve. Allah created everything and He maintains everything. He organizes and controls it according to what He wills. His are the keys to the treasuries of the heavens and the earth, namely rainwater, plants, and so on, and those who disbelieve in the verses of Allah, namely the Quran, they are the losers. This verse is directly related to His word, and Allah will save those who are pious. QSAZ Zimmer, 61, and the verses between the two are the number of iterad or interpolated sentences. Say, do you then order me to worship other than Allah, O you who have no knowledge? The word Gera is nashab by the word abudu, which is also the mammal of the word Tamurwanii or Tamurnanii, by assuming the presence of the letter and before it. And indeed it has been revealed to you and to the prophets before you, by Allah, if you associate partners with Allah, O Muhammad, for example, your deeds will be wiped out and you will certainly be among the losers. Therefore, let Allah alone worship and be among those who are grateful for His blessings upon you. And they do not glorify Allah with proper glorification, that is, they do not know Allah with true knowledge, or they do not glorify Him with true glorification when they associate Him with other than Him, even though the entire earth. The pronunciation of this verse becomes Hal, and the meaning of the pronunciation of Jami'an is the seven-layered earth, in the grip of His power. It means being in His power and Tasharruf, on the day of resurrection, and the heavens are rolled up, folded in two. 1. With His right hand, namely by His power, glory and exalted is Allah from what they associate with Him. And the trumpet is blown, on the first blow, then die, meaning die suddenly, everyone in the heavens and on the earth except whom Allah wills, namely the Huris, the servants of paradise and others besides them. Then the trumpet is blown once more, then suddenly they, namely all the creatures who have died, stand waiting for what will be decided about them. And the earth became bright, it became bright, with Nur Rabnia, when He displayed His power to decide judicial cases between His creatures, and a book was given, namely a book of records of deeds for carrying out calculations, and the prophets and witnesses, namely the Prophet Muhammad and his people to bear witness, that the apostles had truly conveyed His message, and were given decisions between them with the right, namely fairly, while they were not harmed, in the slightest. And every soul will be made full what it has earned, its reward, and He knows best what they do, so He needs no witnesses. And the disbelievers were taken, violently and forcefully, to hell in groups, in waves and separately, so that when they reach hell the doors will be opened. This verse is the answer to the recitation of Izzah, and said to those who guard it, have there never come to you messengers among you who read to you the verses of the Lord you, namely the Quran and other books, and warned you of the meeting with this day? They answered, it is true that it has come. But the decree of punishment has definitely come into effect, namely as expressed by another of His words, namely, indeed, I will fill hell. QS As-Sajda 13, against those who disbelieve. It is said to them, enter the gates of hell, while you will remain eternal therein. That is, you have been appointed to be eternal inhabitants. So the worst place means the place where people who boast live is hell. And those who fear their Lord will be brought gently into paradise in groups, so that when they reach paradise its doors will be opened. The letter Waw in this verse indicates the meaning of hell with the presumed presence of the word Q80 after it. And its guard said to them, peace be upon you, you are blessed. The word thibdom becomes hal, so enter this paradise, while you will abide therein, has been determined to be its eternal inhabitants. The answer to the word izzah is presumed to be its existence, namely then they enter it. And the pious people will be brought into paradise, and the doors of paradise will be opened before they come. This is as an honor for them. While the hurting of the disbelievers and the opening of the doors of hell when they come is intended as an insult for them, so that the heat of hell can be felt by them before they enter it. And they will say, when they enter it, the pronunciation of this verse is memorized to the pronunciation of Dukalulaha, whose existence was estimated in the previous verse. Praise be to Allah who has fulfilled His promise to us, namely admitting us into paradise, and has given us this place, this paradise, while we are allowed to occupy, inhabit, a place in paradise wherever we wish, because paradise is not all a place that is chosen between one and another, because all of them are beautiful. So the best reward for people who do good deeds is paradise. And you will see angels circled. This Hafina recitation becomes hal, around the arash, that is, from all corners. Tasbih becomes hal from the Damar Hafina, while praising their Rab, namely while saying the sentence, Subhanallah wa bihamdi, meaning, glory be to Allah and we praise Him, and judge between them, among all creatures, with rights, with justice. Then those who believe put into heaven, and those who disbelieve are put into hell. And it is said, praise be to Allah, Rab, of the worlds. That is, after the two groups have completed their separation, then the angels end it by praising Allah.
Ghafir. Ha'amim, only Allah knows the meaning and meaning.
Revealed this book, namely the Quran, became Mubtada from Allah, Kabar Mubtada, the Almighty, in His kingdom, and all-knowing, about His creatures, who forgives the sins of the believers, and accepts their repentance, and His punishment is harsh against the disbelievers. That is, He hardens His punishment against them, who have the gift, namely the giver of extensive favors. He was like that forever. The simplified pronunciation of Gaffer to Ad Sanbi, the pronunciation of Kabul to At-Tabi, and the pronunciation of Sayadid to Al-Akabi contain the meaning of Takrif, as the last pronunciation is Thali. There is no God but Him. Only to Him will we return. All creatures must return to Him. None dispute about the verses of Allah, namely the Quran, except the disbelievers from among the people of Mecca. So let them not go freely from one town to another to deceive you. They go back and forth seeking a living in safety. Let not that deceive you, for verily their end and their return is the fire. Before them, the people of Noah and their allied groups had lied to their apostles, such as Ad and Thamud and other groups, after them, and each community had planned a plot against their apostle to take him prisoner, to kill him. And they argue with false pretexts to eliminate, to wipe out, the truth with falsehood. Therefore I will punish them with torment. Then how painful is my punishment towards them. This is in accordance with the rewards they must receive. And thus the decree of your Rabb's punishment has certainly come into effect, as he has expressed in another word, namely, indeed, I will fill the hell of hell. QS as Sajda 13, against people infidels, because in fact they are the inhabitants of hell. The Anahum Ashaya bin Nari pronunciation is Badal from the Kalimat Arabica pronunciation. The angels who carry the throne have the position of being Mubtada, and the angels around them are attributed to the previous verse, Tasbih, as Kabar from Mubtada, praising their Rabb, which means, while praising him, that is saying the sentence, Subhanallah wa bihamdi, and they believe in him, in Allah SWT. With their hearts, that is, they believe in his oneness, and ask forgiveness for those who believe, while saying, O our Rabb, your mercy and knowledge covers everything, meaning, your mercy covers everything, and your knowledge covers everything. So forgive those who repent from polytheism, and follow your path, namely the religion of Islam, and protect them from the torment of the hell of Jahim, whose fire burns. O our Rabb, enter them into paradise ADN, as their abode, which you have promised to them and the pious people. The Manshallaha pronunciation is translated to the Hum pronunciation contained in the Wadkilhum pronunciation, or which is contained in the pronunciation Watahum, from their fathers and their wives and their descendants. Indeed, you are the most mighty, the most wise in his deeds. And protect them from evil, from the retribution of their punishment, and those whom you protect from the retribution of evil on that day, on the day of resurrection, then indeed you have bestowed mercy on them, and that is a great victory. Indeed those who disbelieve are called upon them by the angels, while they hate themselves when they are put into hell. Indeed Allah's hatred is towards you, greater than your hatred towards yourselves, because you are called to, while in the world, to believe. Then you disbelieve. 011. They answered, Our Lord, you have put us to death twice, that is, twice dead, and have brought us back to life twice too, that is, twice alive. Because really before that they were semen, in a state of death, then they were made alive, then they were put to death again, then they were made alive again on the day of resurrection. Then we confessed our sins, namely the sin of our denial of the existence of the day of resurrection, from hell, and then returned to the world, so that we can obey our Rabb, a way, namely a way out. Then their answer is no. 012. That means the punishment that you are undergoing is because, when in the world, you disbelieved when Allah alone was worshipped, that is, you disbelieved when he was confirmed. And if partners are made with Allah, and partners with him, you believe in polytheism. So the decision to punish you is with Allah, the Most High, over all his creatures, again the Most Great, the Most Great. It is he who shows you his signs, which show his oneness, and sends down for you sustenance from the sky, in the form of rain. And there is no learning, namely taking advice, except those who return to Allah from polytheism. Then call to Allah, worship him, by purifying your worship of him, meaning, purify your religion from polytheism, even though the disbelievers don't like it, even though they don't like your sincerity towards him. 015. He is the most high in rank, meaning, Allah is the most great in his attributes, or he is the one who raises the rank of the believers in heaven, who has the throne, who created it, who sent down the Aru, namely revelation, from his command, or his word, to whom he wills among his servants, so that he warns, meaning, the person who receives the revelation is commanded to convey his revelation to humans about the day of meeting, can be read at Talaki or at Talaki using the letter Ya, namely the day of resurrection, because on that day the inhabitants of the heavens and the inhabitants of the earth will meet, and those who are worshipped and those who worship will also meet, just as those who persecute and those who are persecuted will also meet. 0:16. That is the day when they come out from their respective graves. Nothing in their condition is hidden, for Allah says, to whom does the kingdom belong today? Allah himself said it, then he himself answered it, namely, only belongs to Allah, the Almighty, the All-Conquering, over all his creatures. 0:17. On this day every soul is rewarded with what he has worked for. No one will be harmed on this day. Indeed, Allah is very quick in reckoning. He will punish all creatures in just half a world day, according to the hadith. Give them a warning about the day that is near, namely the day of judgment. Derived from the words asafar rahilu, meaning, the time to leave is near, i.e. when the heart is suffocated because it is gripped by fear, until, meaning until the tightness is felt, until, in the throat by holding back sorrow, it is full of sadness. This Qasimiyya pronunciation is hal, or an adverb of condition for the al-Qulubu pronunciation. Then it is considered plural using the letters ya and nun because it is likened to its owners. There are no loyal friends for the wrongdoers, meaning that there are no colleagues and close friends, nor do they have an intercessor whose intercession is accepted, whose intercession can be accepted. The pronunciation of Yuthayu as an attribute does not contain any meaning, because originally there was no intercession for them, as has been expressed in another of his words, namely, so we do not have any intercessor. Qsasy Surah 100. But if the word sci-fine is used, it does have meaning, because it is seen from the perspective of their assumptions, namely, that they have intercessors. What is meant is, if they were to intercede, their intercession would not be accepted. Accepted. He knows, Allah knows, treacherous eyes, when they steal a glance at the things that are forbidden, and what is hidden by the heart, that are stored in the heart. And Allah punishes with justice. And the gods they call upon, which they worship, besides Allah. Our idols cannot punish with anything. How could they be partners with Allah? Indeed, Allah is the all-hearing of all their words and all-seeing of all their deeds. And did they not travel on earth, then see what the end of those who were before them were? They were greater than they. According to accurate pronunciation, minhum is read minkum, meaning greater than you, strength and more numerous. Their traces on the face of the earth, such as buildings and buildings. Then Allah punished them, destroyed them, because of their sins. And they never had a protector from Allah's punishment, from his torment. This was because their messengers had come to them with proofs, namely visible miracles. Then they disbelieved. Then Allah punished them. Indeed, he is strong and severe in punishment. And indeed, we have sent Moses with our signs and clear information, clear and visible proof. To Pharaoh, Haman and Karen, so they said, he is a lying sorcerer. So when Moses came to them bringing the truth, that is, by bringing the right thing, from our side, they said, kill the children of those who believe with him and let them live. That is, let them live, women, their women. And the deception of the disbelievers is nothing but vain, viz. Plunge themselves into destruction. And Pharaoh said to his officials, let me kill Musa, because they prevented him from killing Musa, and let him ask his Rabb, so that he prevents my intention to kill him, because indeed I am afraid that he will change your religion, prevent you from worshipping me, then you follow him, or cause damage on the face of the earth, such as committing murder and so on. According to a kirat, the pronunciation of O is read as Wa. And according to another kirat it is read Ayazhara fil ardhil fasadu. And Musa said to his people while he had heard Pharaoh's threat earlier, indeed, I seek refuge in my Rabb and your Rabb from everyone who boasts of not believing in the day of reckoning. And a man who believed among Pharaoh's family said, according to one opinion, that he was the son of Pharaoh's uncle or his cousin, who hid his faith. Are you going to kill a man because he stated, my Rabb is Allah, even though he has come to you with information, namely clear miracles from your Rabb? And if he is a liar, then he is the one who bears his sins, that is, he himself is the one who bears the consequences of his lies. And if he is a truthful person, some of the disasters he threatens you with will surely befall you, that is, some of the punishments he threatens you with will soon befall you. Indeed, Allah does not appoint people who transgress the limits, namely people who are polytheists, again liars, who tell a lot of lies. O my people, for you is the kingdom this day with power, meaning, by experiencing victory. The pronunciation Zaharina is positioned as a thing or adverb of condition on earth, in Egypt. Who will help us from Allah's punishment? From his punishment if you kill his lovers. If that punishment befalls us, no one can help us. Pharaoh said, I am not telling you, but what I see it is good winky face that is. I am not giving you a signal other than what I have decided, namely killing Moses, and I am not showing you, other than the right path, the path that contains the truth. 0:30. And the believer said, O my people, indeed, I am afraid that you will be struck by disaster, like the destruction of allied groups, namely the punishment that has befallen previous peoples, group after group. Namely, like the situation of the people of Noah, Ad, Thamud, and those who came after them. The Mitzli pronunciation in this verse is Badal, or a replacement for the explanation of the previous Mitzli pronunciation, which is in the verse above. Namely, like the retribution that usually befell the disbelievers before you, they will suffer punishment in this world. And Allah does not wish to do injustice to his servants. O my people, I am truly afraid that you will suffer the torment of the day of calling. Can be read At-Tanadi or At-Tanadi using the letter yes at the end. This means the day of resurrection. On that day there will be many calls between the people of heaven and the people of hell. Each call corresponds to what the caller experiences. So the call that contains happiness is for people of heaven, and the call that contains accidents is for people of hell. Apart from that, there are many other types of calls or exclamations. That is the day when you will run away and turn your backs from the place of reckoning to be brought to the fire. You will have no one from Allah, from his punishment, who can save you, who can avert the punishment from you, and whoever Allah leads astray, he will have no one to guide him. And indeed Joseph came to you before, that is before Moses. According to one opinion, he was Joseph son of Jacob, whose life was prolonged until the time of Moses, or according to another opinion, he was Joseph son of Ibrahim son of Yusuf son of Jacob, bringing clear signs. But you were always in doubt about what he brought to you, so that when he died, you said, without using any true evidence, Allah will not send any messenger after him, while you are still in a state of disbelief or disbelief in Prophet Joseph and the other messengers. That is, the meaning of how you are led astray. Allah leads astray those who exceed the limits, namely those who are polytheists, again doubtful, meaning, do not believe in the miracles that they themselves have witnessed. Those who dispute the verses of Allah, namely his miracles. The sentence of this verse becomes mubtada, without reason, without argument, which came to them. Very big, the sin of their debate. Kabura's recitation becomes kabar from mubtada, wrath, for them, on the side of Allah and on the side of those who believe. Thus, as he led them astray, Allah locked them to death, meaning, misleading. The hearts of everyone who is arrogant and arbitrary can be read as kalbin mutakabirin or kalbi mutakabirin. When someone's heart feels arrogant, then its owner is arrogant, and vice versa. The pronunciation of Cullen according to the 2 kirat above shows the meaning of each person who has a misguided heart, so it is not addressed to everyone. And Pharaoh said, O Haman, build me a tall building, a skyscraper, so that I can reach the doors. Namely the doors of heaven, meaning, the paths leading to it, so that I can see. If it is read Rafa, namely Fathalayu means it is a thaf on the pronunciation of obligu. If it is read Fathalaye, it means it becomes the answer of Fi al-Amar, namely the pronunciation of Ibni, God of Moses, and indeed I see him, considers Moses a liar, because he said that he has a God other than me. Pharaoh said this to deceive his followers. Thus was made Pharaoh to view the bad deed as good, and he was prevented from the path of guidance. Can be read Shada so that the meaning becomes, and Pharaoh obstructed the path of guidance can also be read Shada, which means it has been stated above. And Pharaoh's deception was nothing but bringing loss, resulting in loss. The believer said, O my people, follow me, can be read Atabiyuni or Atabiyuni without or with Yamutakalam. I will show you the right path. Interpretation as before. O my people, indeed the life of this world is only temporary. Pleasures that are temporary disappear, and indeed the afterlife is an eternal land.